we'll start off then with the Pledge of Allegiance. Heather Von Cannon, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's read the ethics statement here. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of the advisory board. Does any member of the advisory board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them now for the record.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to just remind the group, this is my first meeting that I'm officially the superintendent's office appointee. I will be a non-voting member, but will be participating in discussion and evaluation.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, if during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. Next, and our mission statement is the Charter Schools Advisory Board works to ensure the existence of high-quality charter schools in North Carolina. All right, we'll move on into the approval of the October meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All right, we got two motions, so I'm going to count, let's see.
Count mine as second.
There we go. We got a motion and a second from Heather Von Cannon and Cheryl Turner. Any discussion or debate? Corrections, deletions, additions? Minutes looked good. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. All right, we will then move on now to our clarification interviews. And let me just kind of remind everybody of what we do with these clarification interviews. These are not meant to be full-on interviews. They're for you to get clarification so you can decide whether the school should go forward to a full interview. We'll do it where we'll have, when the policy committee is doing an interview, a clarification interview, then the performance committee gets to rest for a little while, and then we'll switch it around. What we're going to do, at least the way that we had discussed it in the past, is that we would have the board members that are here introduce themselves, have somebody from the school give around a 5-minute pitch as to why it would be important to have the school, and kind of explain their goals and their vision, and then we'd move on and ask clarification questions and then decide whether, as a committee, that we would have the school come forward for a full 1-hour interview, and then we would make the appropriate recommendation to the full Charter School Advisory Board. So our first one up was Alpha Academy of Laurinburg, which was a fast-track applicant, but they have withdrew their application.
I have an update.
You have an update? Well, give us an update then.
John withdrew.
Ms. Walker, as Dr. Allen is coming to the podium, I think it's important to note that today is her birthday.
Happy birthday.
Do you want us to sing?
We can sing.
You should sing.
You ready?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Dr. Allen. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
Let's not quit. I think.
All right, let's not
Yeah,
take
let's
choir.
not.
Let's not do a choir.
Oh, my
Let's
goodness.
go. All
Okay.
right.
Good morning, Vice Chair Walker, Committee Co-Chair Kakadelis, and all respective members of the board. Today, I'm going to provide your monthly application update for November 2018. Specifically, we will cover the application timeline and process briefly, the applicants who will come before you for clarification this month, and the applicant groups that I am proposing for clarification for December. Your December interviews are contingent upon the recommendations that you make today. Finally, we will end with any closing questions or remarks. As you know, we have an approved timeline and process which this board recommended to the State Board of Education, which we follow. Because of time restraints, I won't go into detail on this slide unless anyone needs a refresher. Anyone? Okay. Next, I'll take a moment to review the clarification process, which is where we are today. Remember, this is a 30-minute opportunity. I will provide you with a brief overview of the applicant coming before you. Applicant groups will then have 5 minutes to come to the podium, give brief introductions and remarks related to their application, and then they will sit. You can then call them to the podium as you see fit to ask any specific questions for clarification, trying to refrain from asking any full interview questions. Clarification interviews are conducted at the committee level, and each clarification interview will be led by either the committee chair of the committee reviewing the application or Chair Quigley. Those assignments have been outlined for you in your binder. The committee will then deliberate and vote, and ultimately the committee will make a recommendation to the full CSAB whether or not the applicant group that is before you will move forward to interview. Historically, CSAB committees have looked closely at ratings in the Ed Plan, governance, and finance. If applicants received overall passes in those areas, they are typically moved forward to interview. Are there any questions about this process? And that information is actually in a paper-clipped packet that each CSAB committee member has. Yep. Okay. Regarding clarifications, 7 schools were notified to appear before you for their clarification opportunity on October 12th. 1 school withdrew on November 2nd. On October 29th, the Office of Charter Schools released clarification rubrics to applicants so that they could prepare to appear before you today. The applicant groups that are appearing before you for clarification at this meeting are Clara Science Academy, Wilmington School of the Arts, Mena Charter School of Lee County, CFA Community Public Charter, Hobgood Academy, and Revolution Academy. Each of the groups appearing before you has submitted a special request, either Fast Track withdrew, so we have Acceleration and Conversion. 5 of the 6 applicant groups that you will see for clarification today are repeat applicants. December interviews are contingent upon the recommendations given today. For December clarification interviews, we are proposing that you see the following groups. Policy committee reviews will be Old Main Stream Academy, Poquoson Innovative Charter, First Impressions Academy, Kingdom Performing Arts Academy, and Omega School of the Arts. Each of these groups has requested acceleration. For December clarifications, we are proposing that the Performance Committee see Rise Academy, North Davidson Charter, Elaine Riddick Charter, Lighthouse Charter, and Robert J. Brown Leadership Academy. Robert J. Brown, none of these applicants are repeat applicants. Robert J. Brown did submit an application last year, but they submitted after the deadline, so they were not considered. Each of these applicants has requested acceleration. If you are okay with seeing these proposed groups for clarification next month, we will begin notifying them following today's meeting. Are there any questions or concerns? All right. So we'll move into clarification interviews. The applicant coming before the board today is Clara Science Academy Charter School. They're proposing to locate in Mecklenburg County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 2, 250 students. Year 2, K through 3, 350 students. Year 3, K through 4, 450 students. Year 4, K through 5, 550 students. Year 5, K through 6, 650 students. There was no LEA impact statement or due diligence for this application. Pass-fail ratings were as follows. Mission, purposes, and goals, all pass. Education plan, all pass. Governance plan, all pass. Operations, all pass. Finance, all pass. This applicant is requesting an acceleration. They are also a repeat applicant. Last year, they received a full interview. This applicant received assistance from Leaders Building Leaders in the North Carolina Public Charter School Accelerator Program. No direct fees were provided to either entity.
Okay, so we're gonna do Clara Science first then?
Yes.
Okay,
The order is a bit different from what's on the agenda, but if you follow your packet, that is the order that they will come up.
well, I already put my packet in the order.
Order of the agenda.
So, okay.
What works
well,
for you, Stephen? What's your pleasure?
No, that's fine. We'll do Clara Science Academy first, and then I think I've just pulled Hobgood out of the order, so I'll just need to know when we're gonna do Hobgood.
Okay.
Because I pulled them out first.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, so Clara Science Academy, that is a policy, so that'll be us, folks on this side of the room, and we will get started on that right away. So we'll go ahead and have the board introduce themselves. And we've all seen you before, but still let you do it. Then we're going to give you 5 minutes to basically
Tell us.
say what you're wanting to do.
Yes, sir. Good morning, and it's good to be back with all of you. My name is Omar Muhammad. I'm the chair board. I'm a business owner.
Good morning. Thank you for having us back. My name is April Yakub. I'm a CMS teacher, social studies department chair, and Mandarin Chinese.
Good morning. I'm Varsity Muhammad. I'm an educator. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm the secretary of the board.
Okay, and who would like to give your passionate explanation of what you want to do?
Well, Claire Science Academy is offering a STEM program in the west area of Charlotte. Our goal is to bring a rigorous program to the area. The board is a veterans board coming back to you. We have a judge going to be on our board, a lawyer that's represented on the board. We're prepared to offer the Charlotte area, especially in the low socioeconomic area, a STEM program that we think that will help not only build rigor in our students, academically prepare them for the future, both career-wise and for college. We are offering a very unique program in terms of the fact that it is not traditional, it's non-traditional. So we're hoping to offer a diverse way of teaching, which will hopefully build academics, build rigor, and prepare our students for global challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well then let's walk through this application and see where there anything that we might want to ask as far as clarification goes, and just discuss the application in general and see what we're looking at here. Anybody have anything on mission, purposes, and goals they want to discuss, or?
I don't have anything that would be clarification. I have questions, but they wouldn't really be clarification questions.
Okay. I mean, I think maybe for me, what would help to clarify is just to ask the applicant what was different in the application this year? What improvements did you make to the application? Because they got to the full interview last year and then didn't make it through, and so what changes they had made? So we'll ask that question here. We'll ask it in just a minute. We'll go through and then we'll ask you. Okay. Okay. How about the education plan?
See, they're not clarification questions. It wasn't clear. It wasn't clear. It's not.
Oh, y'all can go ahead and say it.
Well, we're talking about the STEM curriculum. It's not clear exactly what that's going to look like, and if there is one that is vetted and nationally known. So it's just, that part is unclear, but I don't know if that's better suited for the interview process.
Well, I think if you think it's unclear, then it would
It's
be a
clarity.
clarification. Yeah, it needs clarity, and so I think you can ask that question. So we'll have you ask that one just to see, because really what we're doing here is we want to get clarification on things we didn't understand, and that so we can see if we want to move it forward.
Okay.
So,
Well, then included with the instructional program, it was all this stuff about STEM, and then all of a sudden it was going to be dual language, 3 languages, and I didn't understand where that came from or how it fit in the overall.
okay. I like the dual language part of it, but I can see how it kind of feels a little disjointed when the whole focus is on STEM. All right, anything else on education? All right, governance and capacity?
would just like more clarification on the facility. Again, it didn't seem like it was nailed down. So that they're interested in getting leasing a building. Just one more clarification on that, please.
Which is critical to the acceleration issue.
Right.
Right, and
I would like clarification on the professional development plan, specifically project-based learning and STEM integration, since that seems to be a heavy focus for the school. I didn't see that clearly defined as what that would be.
okay. Anything else on governance? All right, then we can move into operations. So that has some more to do with the facility there.
I had a
Yeah, that
Facility's
was
a big concern.
my biggest interest on the facility plan. If you read what's written in the acceleration section, it seems different than what's in the application talking about the facility. And so where in that acceleration, you're saying this is, we've got something lined up, and then in the facility, you talk more about it. But then what's in the acceleration evidences doesn't seem to match up with what's in
Exactly.
there. And so I'm confused as to what's actually going on here.
And I have some questions about the lunch program. So it starts off saying everybody's gonna bring lunch. Then it says, but we're gonna provide breakfast and lunch, but I'm just confused about what exactly are they planning to do with food?
Okay. All right, anything else in operations? All right, how about finance? Not that this really needs clarification, but I thought their health insurance plans were pretty low. I mean, I'd be amazed, that you could find something that, I mean, I'm sure you can find a plan that cheap. Whether you can recruit a teacher with a plan that cheap is another question. And then one thing that I guess I'm confused is why there are expenses for gas and oil and tires and maintenance, but no bus expenses. And I guess I need a little clarification on that.
And I'd like clarification too on the budget as far as what's changed from the initial application to this one, because I know we had a lot of questions on it last time they came through, and it didn't seem like much really changed.
Okay, anything else on finance? And then this doesn't go just for this school, because a lot of other schools did it too. When we ask for a break-even number, what we want is, with your proposed budget, with no changes, how many students do you have to break even with that? That's what we're asking for. And I think in almost every application, I think except for one, there was one school that we read that actually said, our break-even number with the proposed budget is this, so that we know that they don't have to make any budget adjustments if they have this many students. What all the rest of them did is said, well, if we do this and we do that, we do this, then our break-even number is this. Well, I want to know what it is
With this,
with this proposed budget, so that, because if you're having to make changes to the budget, then you're already in a mess. And so we wanted to know, how many students do you need? So I know that everybody's not listening to us right now, but I mean, that's really what we need.
the other reason why that's really critical is if you don't make your numbers, you're gonna get your first drop based on this number. So your budget is gonna have to be adjusted retroactively, essentially, because you will already have gotten a portion of money you're not entitled to. So what the break-even number is becomes critical.
Right. And I think we just learned that with Global Achievers, where they basically, in their first of their 3 allotments, got funded for the year.
Yeah.
And that can be rough. Okay, well, let's go ahead and ask you some clarification questions. We can knock out kind of 2 of them here right off the bat. What changes did y'all make to the application from last year to make the application better?
The changes that were made to the application, the first thing we did was look at our board and see what can we add to our board. So we did add another board member to our board, which is a judge. He has over 5 years, I believe, on other charter school boards in the New York area. He has that expertise, so we decided to invite him onto our board. Other changes that we looked at was driving more into the STEM program, looking at what that really looks like and what it's going to look like for us, what we need, what's the message that we're trying to send out to the community, and what are we trying to really offer to the children, to the scholars in that community. So we look at our STEM curriculum and wanted to give more for informal type setting, where they're getting more exposure outside, not just in the classroom, where we have more collaboration with other organizations in the Charlotte area and within the state of North Carolina. So we look at a lot of variation. We also look at the diversity. How much of a diversity can we have at this school? We know the area is predominantly African American, but there is a percentage of other groups, other cultures in that area that we can tap into. And not only just within the West area, but looking throughout the Mecklenburg County and see how can we bridge those other races into that area, which will diversify it.
Okay, and why don't you talk, since we're already on the subject of changes, why don't you talk about how the budget changed, if at all?
I'm going to turn that over to.
Whoever wants to answer these questions can answer them. Whoever's best suited.
Okay.
Yes, the budget changed by, number one, we raised $20,000 for our buses. Compared to last year, we didn't have the $20,000. That's why you see the maintenance, the budget for the maintenance, and the budget for the gas. The other changes that we have for the budget, which you don't see, and we just received it on October the 1st. We have charter schools capital, which has intent to loan us $270,000 for the first year. So that right there will offset some of the expenses that we may incur for that first year.
Okay, so now is that shown as other revenue in the?
No, it's not, because when they sent it on October the 1st, and the application was due. So I spoke to the board members, and they said if you already submitted it, there's no sense in going back to unsubmit it, and something may happen where we couldn't get it through.
So tell me a little bit more then about the transportation. The buses, in the budget, it's got zero, but you're saying you raised $20,000 for the buses?
Yes. We
Okay.
raised $20,000 for the buses.
And so have y'all already purchased the buses? Or
No, we haven't.
Okay, so where would that expense come in? If you've raised the 20, is that something you did after the application as well?
No, we put it in the revenue section where you have
Put the
other.
expense in. You
On
put
the
the revenue
application?
in, but then you didn't
Yeah,
put the.
there's just
Right,
no
the
expense
20,000.
for it.
No expense for. I didn't quite understand it.
Okay, yeah, because I see here the other funds. So that
Yes.
the 20,000 for the other funds is what you raised for the buses,
Yes.
and then you've got but you have buses zero. That's where I needed clarification, because you've got expenses for gas,
Yes.
and old tires and maintenance,
Yes.
but no expense for the bus.
For the bus,
And
yes.
That's 20,000.
Additional expense.
Yeah, which puts your surplus down to 79. But you say you have
A letter of intent from capital, schools capital.
for some working capital.
Yes.
Okay, but that came after that.
Okay, but that's a loan, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what about the payment on the loan? That's not in there yet either.
No, that's not it. We're still talking with them. We have a conference meeting with them this Thursday.
Okay. All right.
So at this point, you don't know the terms of that loan, how soon it has to be paid back, or what the payments are?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Skills time.
Well, let's move into education then, now that we kind of know where everything's changed here. Heather, you had some questions about the STEM curriculum, about the clarity in it.
I just would like to kind of have a better understanding of if there's a specific curriculum that they're purchasing,
Still didn't put the.
or if there's a program that is vetted that we may be familiar with, research-based, peer-reviewed, that type of thing. So what does that look like?
In terms of the curriculum, in terms of the STEM curriculum, one of the curriculum that we're looking at is the STAR. That has the K to 12. I mean, it goes to K to 12, but we use in K to 2 to evaluate both language arts, math, and science. It also assess writing and reading as well. So we're looking at STEM, at the STAR curriculum, yes.
That is an assessment, is that correct? An
Yes,
assessment program?
I'm sorry. In terms of the curriculum, actual curriculum itself, we are looking at several, we have not narrowed down in terms of the specific, in terms of which one we're going to look at, but we've looked at several curriculum-based STEM programs, STEM curriculums that we have looked at, and just trying to, we're also going to look at bringing several other programs to not just in the STEM curriculum. So no, we have not finalized that as yet in terms of the specific one that we're going to use for the actual program as yet.
You say that you use the phrase informal STEM learning environment
Right.
quite often. What does that mean?
Informal means that we are bringing in a variation of techniques into the teaching. It means that the students will participate, whether it's field trip, outside the area or in the local area. It means that we will have collaboration with speakers or health organization coming in and do a demonstration. It's a collaboration of many things. It means hands-on approach. It means also having students create garden types programs in the school. It means it's a construction of several different things. It's not what we're trying to get away from is not where the teachers are actually just doing that traditional teaching, but we're actually trying to give them more exposure to the sciences and exposure to the STEM areas, math, science, environment, so that they're not just confined to one style of learning. In terms of informal too, I believe one of the question was, in terms of the setup of the classroom, is that students will not be just confined to a desk. They will have the option to sit in any areas of the classroom. So the classroom will design in a multifaceted area where you'll have you may have an area with traditional desks, but you may also have a chair and a circle area. You may also have a relaxed couch family style area. So they will be able to explore the classroom and feel which area they're best able to sit and learn and not be distracted.
Okay, well, let's talk about dual language then, as we get into that.
Okay, dual language is the idea with the concept behind that is that we know that at least one language has to be taught in the school. So we wanted to give parents the opportunity to charm into what are we going to offer in terms of language. So we wanted to offer Spanish, Chinese, and Arabic. However, the goal in trying to reach the specific one our goal is to survey the actual population and see which one the parents would want, and then we focus on that one particular language. So they will have a choice in terms of selection process, in terms from the parents' involvement to see this is what we want to offer you, but based on the majority, this is what we will teach in the classroom.
Are the teachers going to speak in English when they teach, and then also in a different language when they teach as well? I mean, how does that play in? I guess what I want to know is, if you're going to have a rigorous STEM curriculum as well, and then you're integrating the language into it, how's that going to work? Just to clarify that for me on a day-to-day basis, how that would work.
Thank you. That will be like an immersion. So we're not going to do an immersion program. We're going to do mostly a cultural base because they're K through 2, and incorporate some of those language novice language levels into some of the when they do the specials. You know, in elementary they have specials, so they have media and they have PE and they have, so language will be one of those. And that way when they get to middle school and foreign language is a requirement, when they get to high school and foreign language is a requirement, maybe they will not start as a novice, but maybe novice mid or novice high, and they will be more proficient in the language. So it's just like a kind of open them up. And so
I'm glad
in the
you
classroom,
clarified that, because I wouldn't consider that a dual language program. I mean, that, to me, that just, sounds like you're gonna have some Spanish
You're gonna offer
classes or some
foreign
Arabic
language.
classes or whatever. Okay. That's why we have clarification interviews. Thank you for that. Let's move on to something that I think is pretty important here, the facility plan, especially since this is an acceleration. How are we doing on time? 10 minutes? Okay, so 10 minutes before we need to decide? Okay, so let's go with about 5 more minutes then so we can do it. So let's talk about facilities. What's the deal with the facility? Because what was in the acceleration documentation seemed a little bit different than what was down in the facilities part of the application, where it was supposed to be more fully explained.
Yes, and that right there is an excellent question. When we first seen the layout of the application for acceleration, I just looked and said, wow, because the first 2 years, we haven't seen those questions. But what we did was, we had a facility last year, and what had happened was Head Start beat us to it. So we had to regroup and find another facility. And that's what we did. We found another facility which was bigger. So right now it's at Marbury Presbyterian Church and Pastor Sellis. We looked at the building. It has roughly about 15 classrooms on each side. It has 2 sides, building A and B. And it has a cafeteria, and it has everything that we wanted and everything that we needed. So it's roughly about, the whole area is roughly about 235 square feet. As far as
234,000 square feet.
Yes,
Right.
as far as land and building.
And you can stay there until you have a permanent facility?
Yes.
So what agreement do you have in place with them right now? Is it a letter of intent or?
Well, right now, we're still in negotiations because their lawyer has to come to the table with our legal representation. So, but they are, they said that we have the building as far as verbally, and once the application is passed, then after that, we can go ahead and proceed after that.
And
But-
that's with Mulberry Presbyterian
Yes.
Church?
Yes,
Okay,
Pastor
because there
Self.
is a letter of intent that was
Yes.
submitted in there, a letter of intent for them to be able to use it. But they said, we've just got to work out the details as to cost and everything, which is kind of
Exception
on the
different.
line of whether that's acceptable or not for acceleration, because, I mean, really the idea is that there would be an actual agreement with with the lessor that was, that was just contingent upon receiving the charter.
Well, the other thing too is with a budget that's already tight, we need to have some idea of what is your rent cost gonna be.
Right. Right. I mean, that's where it kind of, in my mind, I guess I'm not struggling so much with whether to go forward to an interview. My question is does it go forward as an acceleration?
Acceleration.
Because I think there's kind of some stuff in the air that makes me wonder, is there really time to get it done in that time period without the actual cost of the facility locked in?
They have $180,000 in the budget for facility lease.
Which may be enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it really should be enough. I mean, I've found that most of the time the churches are a little more lenient with their, because they're not out to make a big profit off of it, so they're a little more, there. Okay, well, that helps with the facility. We got, what, about another minute? One more minute, so let's, we've really already discussed, let's see. I'll tell you what, let's Cheryl, ask about the lunch. Let's do that.
I need to understand what the plan is for lunch. First sentence says, everybody will bring a bag lunch. In the middle, it says, but we'll supply breakfast lunch. At the end, it says, if people aren't bringing their food, then we'll get with the parent to figure out how they can bring food. So what's up with lunch?
Yes. After last year, and the question on lunch was basically the same thing. We had to do our research, and so we called the USDA. And the USDA informed us that we had to have 3 bids for the lunch program, even to join that program. So what we did was we just made sell lunch. They have opportunity to bring in a bag of lunch, and if needed, if the child needs breakfast, then we will provide it. Last year at the North Carolina Charter Association, we had the pleasure of meeting one of the lunch vendors, SLA, and they provide lunch in Florida and a couple other states, and they said that they can provide lunch for the same price that we would pay for at the USDA. So that's where we are with the lunch program. We're making sure that if the child doesn't bring the bag of lunch, then we will provide the lunch. If the child hasn't eaten breakfast, then we will provide it.
I think we're gonna get a little
Mr.
bit more
Policy
clarification.
Chair,
Yes.
I know I'm a peripheral member here, but
If I may.
I do have a question if I could.
If I may, just a little bit of clarification there, because I don't think it came out the way that you were expecting it to, so my apologies. In terms of the school lunch, again, we want to give parents choices. Not everyone can afford to pay for lunch, but we do plan on utilizing the USDA. That will be our bottom line is we will provide lunch and breakfast for students because we are serving an area that is of a low socioeconomic area. So the likelihood of students needing lunch and breakfast is going to be high. But at the same time, we want to give our parents choices. So if they decided not to utilize our program, they have that choice to bring lunch. So that's why the word bag lunch is in there. But it's a choice to the parents where they can still package their child lunch if they so chose to do that.
Okay. All right, thank y'all. Any discussion on this or any motions for the committee?
Excuse me, Stephen, I actually did have a question, if there's still time to ask a question.
Well, okay, well, I'll break protocol. I'll let you ask the question,
All right.
as long as it's a quick one.
With respect to the organizational chart, that's Appendix E, I was a little confused about the board and this idea of committees. Who's on these committees? Are these just board committees, or are these board?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question for me, please?
And then why is legal counsel and auditors part of the governance of the school? Why are they up there on an equivalent, really, to the head of school?
Yeah, so in your organizational chart, what he's getting at here is there's from CSA board members, there's a line that goes to committees, and there's a line that goes to legal counsel and auditor. And I think his question's kind of twofold. Number one, who makes up the committees?
The committees are just the board members. That way, they're focused on their specific talent area or skill area. So there's several teachers or educational people on the board, so they focus on the education curriculum. We have a lawyer and a judge, they focus on the legal. We have a person that's in accounting, and he focuses on, so that the committees are all based on the talent or skills of the board members.
So the authority of these committees trump the the judgment and the leadership of the head of school? Is that?
No, no. We
Well,
just,
that's
when
what
we're
it's
doing the
saying on
application,
organizational chart.
it doesn't trump it, but when you say it trumps what did you say, say it again? I'm sorry.
Oh, they're committees of the board, right?
Right, they're
So
committees
they're
of the board.
committees made up of board members that
Yes.
basically focus in on issues that report to the board.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
So they advise the board,
they advise
Right.
the board. That's what
but
it
they are
sounds
members
like.
of the board.
It's board members, and each person has their specialty, so they just made a committee so that they can focus on those areas. Because the attorney on our board is not really good with curriculum and education as far as that, but maybe the teachers are that are on the board, and the attorney is good with the legal and governance, so they focus on that. So that's how we broke it down, so everybody will have their skill set being represented on the
How
board.
many people on the board?
8. We just added one, 8.
All right. Okay, let's discuss this because we've got just about a minute to finish up. So do we have any discussion or motions out of the policy committee?
I think I'm making a motion that we move them to interview.
I'm comfortable with that. I think I'd like to see them come a little more gusto and a little more explanation that's clear when they come in for that. So I'll second that motion. Do we have any other discussion? All right, so all in favor?
Excuse me, this is an accelerated application, is that right? And they don't have a facility?
They,
They don't have anything you can
well,
wrap your arms around?
let us finish with the committee work, and then we'll have a full discussion as a board, because I'll turn it back over to that. I just want to stay in it. I don't, is Alan on policy committee?
Yeah.
Well, how come he's sitting over on the
there.
performance committee side?
over here.
By me.
Because he likes this side of the room.
Well, then I am sorry, Alan. You can say whatever you want, and you'll just be the odd duckling sitting on the other side of the room from.
Thank you, Stephen.
All right,
I'm
well-
flattered with that
Listen, y'all
title.
separated us, and it doesn't last too long.
Well, apparently not. Okay, Alan, go ahead. See, this whole time I wasn't gonna let Alan talk, and I was like, "Why is Alan talking? He's over there." Okay, go ahead, Alan.
But I am a member of your own policy committee, of which you're the,
I thought
the
you were
chair.
too, but
Gotta
you were
move
sitting on the
over
wrong
there.
side. Go ahead.
So again, I am concerned about this being an accelerated application, is that correct? And with no firm letter of intent or whatever?
They've got a letter of intent. They're just negotiating price.
And I still am concerned about the delineation of authority on their organizational chart. I like to see a board of directors with total control and exclusive control over the lead administrator and not subject the lead administrator to committees or ad hoc folks that can confuse his or her leadership.
Right.
So I have both of those concerns.
Understood.
As far as the acceleration thing, I'm still not convinced it's ready for, that it's acceleration. However, they've got a month. They said their lawyers are gonna talk to each other, so by the time of the interview, they may be more clear about what the terms are.
All right, then, we need to vote. All in favor of the motion to move them forward to interview? All right, that's unanimous then, unless there's nobody else. that's policy committee. All right, that's unanimous. So then on behalf of the policy committee, Mr. Chair, I would move that we bring Clara Science Academy in for a full interview.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Who seconded that?
Well, sorry. Who wants to second it?
Heather Von Cannon did.
All right.
Y'all
Seconded by Heather.
Yes.
Any discussion for the full board on the motion? All right, all in favor? All right, motion carries. So we'll see them for a full interview
Next month,
next month.
along with the
Somehow.
11 that we're doing for clarification. You got that. You're good. And low performing and renewal.
It's 3 days, you just didn't
No, it's 2.
It may need to be.
That's when we went to the schools.
I will take a moment to refresh the CSAB on the timeline for clarification interviews. Applicants will give a 5-minute statement. You will have 15 minutes for committee discussion and questions, 5 minutes deliberation in the committee and a vote, and then 3 minutes for the full CSAB to vote. Okay, so just a quick
5
refresh.
minutes.
Yes,
15
5-minute statement from the applicant, 15 minutes for committee discussion and questions, 5 minutes for any deliberation and a vote at the committee level, and then 3 minutes for a full CSAB discussion and vote. Okay?
Great.
The applicant coming before the board today is Wilmington School of the Arts. They're proposing to locate in New Hanover County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 2, 240 students. Year 2, K through 3, 320 students. Year 3, K through 4, 400 students. Year 4, K through 5, 480 students. Year 5, K through 6, 560 students. There was no LEA impact statement or due diligence for this application. Pass-fail ratings were as follows: mission, purposes, and goals, all pass. Education plan, 4 pass, 1 fail. Governance plan, all pass. Operations, all pass. Finance, all pass. This applicant is requesting an acceleration. They are also a repeat applicant. Last year, they received a full interview. This applicant did not receive assistance from a third party. This application was deemed complete on October 5th, 2018. This interview will be led by Chair Alex Quigley and discussed by the Performance Committee.
Great. All right, come on forward and introduce yourself.
My name is Barry Rice. I'm the chairperson of the Wilmington School of the Arts Board of Directors, and I'd like to have each person introduce themselves, and then we'll proceed with a brief statement.
Good morning, I'm Elizabeth Nagley. I'm the vice chair of the board, and I'm a leadership coach with a education nonprofit.
Good morning, thank you for having us. My name is Emily Orr, I'm the board secretary. I'm a retired music educator.
Good morning, my name's Tom Martin. I'm the board treasurer. I'm retired as a business person, accountant, et cetera.
Good morning. I'm John Westberg, retired educator and board member.
I think if I understood the directions right, we'll get a 5-minute presentation on whatever we'd like.
Yep.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Elizabeth
4
Nagel will be
minutes and
making
20
that part.
seconds.
Thank you. Something I'm beeping?
It's all good.
Good, okay.
Is that an essay?
That's right. You're
We're
listening.
here today because we believe that there is a desperate and an urgent need for good schools in our community, and that's why we requested acceleration. As I know you all are intimately familiar with, there is great disparity in performance in elementary schools in New Hanover County, which disproportionately affects students of color and low-income families. While students in New Hanover County do have access to some schools of choice in our community, those schools are some of the lowest performing schools in our community, and the single successful charter school in New Hanover County does not provide equitable access to all students. They do not provide busing and transportation. So we believe that there is like I said, an urgent need to create a high quality school that serves all students in our community. We believe that our vision and our plan for an arts integrated school will provide for that gap that we see in our county, in our district. In our vision, the school is focused on 2 things that I like to talk about, both of them, which is first, commitment to rigorous curriculum and a rigorous experience for all students. We are uncompromising in our commitment to having students have access to grade level materials every day. We have selected curriculum that will allow us to intentionally integrate the arts, but also while still using peer vetted research-based curriculum. So we've chosen Wit and Wisdom for ELA, which does include an arts supplement, so students will be able to learn about the arts in whatever unit they're studying, so whatever background knowledge they're building, they'll analyze art of that same topic. We've chosen Zern because that is also a highly rated program that operates with a flexible schedule. It's 4 days a week, and so we've got a flexible day where we can provide arts integrated tasks. In New Hanover County, they have not adopted any peer-reviewed proven curriculum. So this is very different from what students have opportunities and access to right now. In terms of our daily arts program, all students will have access to weekly instruction in the 4 core areas of arts, in dance, visual arts, theater, and music, and that's not common across elementary schools. Most students have access to visual arts and music, not consistent experiences in all 4 areas of the arts every week, and all of our students will have that, and it will not be supplemental as an elective. It is a core element of our program. We also focus heavily on arts integration into the content areas themselves. Like I mentioned, the curriculum that we've chosen is going to facilitate some of those arts experiences. We'll also staff an arts coordinator position, whose job will be to meet with grade level teams and help them plan arts integrated tasks. Through these tasks and assessments, we know that our students will have the ability to develop 21st century skills that they will need regardless of whether or not they choose an arts career later in their life. They'll develop the ability to speak confidently, to express their ideas, to think creative and innovatively. And we believe that this will be an opportunity for them to demonstrate their mastery of content and to further investigate their understanding of the content. So through our academic program and our operational plan, we believe that we're going to be able to offer this kind of high quality education to all students in the county, which we feel is our families desperately need and deserve.
Great. What, I guess my biggest question is, your application was moved forward last time, so what is the biggest, is there anything in the application that would require clarification that we need to know about that has changed dramatically from last time? I don't know, or perhaps someone that was there last year.
Can I start and then I'll have them jump
Sure.
in?
You were not on the board.
I was not
last
on,
year.
no. Last year was not. I think that we really just clarified our vision and our understanding of what arts integration means and what that looks like in a daily practice and how that's going to impact kids in the long term. There was a curriculum change from CKLA to Wit and Wisdom and Zern, and we want kids to have access to authentic texts every day, and Wit and Wisdom allows kids to do that, and CKLA does not. We're still sticking with CKLA for phonics because we do want students in early elementary to have daily phonics instruction. But I would say those are the 2 big things. I'm sorry, can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
And we are using a lottery this year.
Okay.
A weighted lottery.
Weighted lottery. Okay, so you're requesting acceleration. Could you talk to us about the facility situation?
The facility arrangement we now have, we've got a 5-year lease with the facility in Wilmington. We also have letters of intent for assisting in the modification of that facility and a letter of intent to assist in securing an additional facility when it's needed. And that is provided in the application, and I believe in one of the appendixes. Yes, ma'am.
I had a question with regards to that. Yes, in your documentation, the church lease said that it was good for 60 months. But then in the letter from Schoolhouse, I can't remember.
Schoolhouse Development.
There you go. It said, it looks like you would be moving to a permanent facility in year 2.
That, in our original discussions, we were looking at 2 facilities in Wilmington, and we knew we'd have to have a building for at least a year, if not 2. And Schoolhouse Construction was working with us and a major commercial realtor in Wilmington to secure a site where they could do the reconstruction and retrofitting for a facility. We wanted to be sure we would have enough time, so we got a lease with the church for the extended amount of time, in case something fell with that. And Schoolhouse Development, John and I have talked with Schoolhouse Development, and they are in agreement to modify the letter of intent depending on what is available and what becomes available in the community as far as the commercial building.
So the 5-year lease is breakable, I guess.
Yes.
And it looks like the facility, the church facility, is fairly
good to go?
Yes, we need to do internet connectivity in the education building. There are some rooms we will have to modify in terms of size for pull-out classrooms. We have access to their cafeteria. We've got plenty of space, and if we need to go with that school for another year, we've been assured we can do that. There is space and facility for
the additional students?
additional students, as well as there's space. We'll have to have mobile classrooms, depending on when we can get something more permanent through schoolhouse development.
And that church facility, is it not being utilized right now, or is it?
No, ma'am. The education building was used for, I believe, 3 or 4 years prior to this year by a private school.
Okay.
They moved to Brunswick County, and it is sat vacant for, I guess, about 18 months.
Okay.
We ran up cost it, and that's where we are.
So that's why it had a certificate of occupancy?
Yes, ma'am.
Educational occupancy?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I follow up with a facility enrollment question, if you can stay up there with the facility? Mapping out, it looks like you're only about a mile from a competing charter school in this location, is that
Okay.
correct? And about 3 miles from another charter school. And our biggest issues, particularly with acceleration, is ensuring meeting our enrollment objectives.
Correct.
What confidence do you have that you're gonna get that enrollment that you plan to get, that 240 the first year? Given on the survey responses, it didn't look so compelling. There are only about 54 respondents. What additional information do you have that you're confident you can get that enrollment number for us?
Well, the one thing we're doing currently and have been doing since we submitted the application is a whole lot more community and parent outreach. We've got letters of intent or family interest forms completed. They're being processed now. We're targeting community centers, recreational facilities in different areas. We go into boys clubs, girls clubs to get the information to parents who normally may not have access to computer or may not have access to the other places we're going to. We feel confident that we can make it. We know we've got a break-even point, and we're going to be going above that, and our magnet numbers or the lottery draws will be supposed to have 240. We're going to be looking at 350 in the lottery draw, so because there'll be some dropouts there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Just a clarification on the organizational chart. Ms. Nagel, are you the person that's going to be the principal?
No, I'm gonna remain on the board.
Okay. You don't want to be the principal?
No.
Is there a person on the board that's going to be the principal?
She will not step forward for that.
Is there a person on the board that's going to be the principal?
Yes,
Okay. So, and you're Mr. Westberg?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Okay. I mean, we're not gonna make a decision about the final, whether or not they're truly eligible for acceleration. That's not gonna be a final decision until we do the full review of the application, if we were to bring them forward for the interview. So the question that we're seeking to answer today is, do we wanna bring them forward for an interview? I am, given where they were last year and that they only have one fail, that, I'm comfortable bringing them forward to go ahead and have an interview. We've already interviewed them once before, but I still think acceleration across the board is a high threshold to pass.
I do have a question. One change, a material change, and may I say that this application is much better than it was last year. Revolves around the weighted lottery. And I just need a little clarification. I want to make sure I'm understanding what I'm reading. The application says, it states that 50% of the seats will be designated for free and reduced
eligible students, is that correct? 50%? And then the criteria, you know, kindergartners, what's the criteria that you'll use for them to be eligible? If they're certified already through the county, or will they fill out the application? How will you get your kindergartners that?
Yeah, families that want to enter the weighted lottery will have the option to fill out a form to disclose their family income based on the number of people in their household. And families that choose to and that qualify, that meet the right thresholds, will be entered into the weighted lottery. So it's not before, it is before they would fill out a free or reduced lunch form.
So how are you going, as, you know, I'm applying to go to your school, how are you going to, as a low-income mom, encourage me to apply and understand what the meaning of this weighted lottery is?
Yeah, when families come to pick up their enrollment packets, we'll tell all parents that they have the opportunity to enter a weighted lottery, which gives them a greater chance to secure a seat, which I hope would encourage families to fill out the form. We would remind them that this is private information, does not have a determination on whether or not they get a seat, and it's just used for an extra chance into the school.
Okay.
Let me ask, so it's just a form they fill out, and how do you verify it?
It's my understanding that that's the traditional way that it has been done, and other church schools have, yeah, sure. It's my understanding that that's the legal appropriate way to do this, that we've seen other charter schools do, and that it's voluntary based on parent disclosure.
I think they work with Office of Charter Schools to make sure they do it the right way. We want to make sure that we're encouraging people to do weighted lotteries and supporting them in the process, although it is a highly detailed and kind of a complex thing. I think that's one of the reasons why charter schools are not doing it. So any kind of guidance and support, I know you all have done that already, but that we need to provide for people that want to do this. I think from the state level, we need to provide it. All right. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. We have 2 minutes remaining for questions. Again, I'm comfortable bringing them forward for an interview. Do have a variety of things to follow up on in more depth, but that's my opinion.
I'd like to ask one question, and they don't have to answer it today. But if you got 2 charter schools in the same area, what makes you think that people will come to yours? Why did you choose to start a 3rd charter school in the same area, even though it's a different type of school? Did you have a lot of parents coming and saying that I want this type of education for my child? And you don't have to answer.
That's an interview question. Yeah, let's be ready to answer that one.
Be ready to answer.
You get a whole month to think about it.
Yeah.
We have had a lot of interest. I'll leave it there. We'll answer next time.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk
All right.
about it. Alan? Alan's not on this committee.
Don't look at Alan.
Yeah. I'm on Stephen's,
Alan, you
community
need to move
policy.
over there. You're confusing everybody.
Let's
When
let's
he
not even
talks-
try to
Did
make
you
him
make a
move.
motion?
It's not gonna- I
Only
did not
one
make
of
a
us
motion.
I'll
I'm
make
not-
a
I'm not
motion
going, I'm not going.
I'll make a motion that we bring Wilmington School of Arts for a full interview next month.
I second it.
Okay. All right, so it's been properly moved and seconded that the full board bring Wilmington School of the Arts forward for a full committee interview. Any discussion on that motion as a full board? Any questions? Great. All in favor? Opposed? Alan, did you vote?
Wait, okay.
This is for everybody.
We gotta
Oh, we gotta vote
on
just
that.
in our committee?
Yeah.
2 votes. All right. On the performance committee, all in favor? All right, motion carries. I'll go ahead and make the motion that the full board recommend Wilmington School of the Arts for a full board interview.
I second.
Okay.
Okay.
Sherry seconded that. Any discussion on that motion? I'm assuming no. All in favor? Great. All right, we will see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
The applicant coming before the board today is Mena Charter School of Lee County. They're proposing to locate in Lee County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 5, 252 students. Year 2, K through 6, 324 students. Year 3, K through 7, 396 students. Year 4, K through 8, 468 students. Year 5, K through 8, 540 students. There was no LEA impact statement or due diligence for this application. Pass-fail ratings were as follows: mission, purposes, and goals, 4 pass, 1 fail. Education plan, 4 pass, 1 fail. Governance plan, 4 pass, 1 fail. Operations plan, 4 pass, 1 fail. Finance plan, 4 pass, 1 fail. This applicant is requesting an acceleration. They are also a repeat applicant. Last year, they received a full interview. This applicant did not receive assistance from any third party. This application was deemed complete on October 5th, 2018. This interview will be led by Chair Alex Quigley and discussed by the Policy Committee.
What their enrollment is. All right, great. Let's go ahead and have the folks from MENA come up and introduce themselves, and you have, starting now, clock has started, 5 minutes, including your introductions, to make a statement.
Good morning again to this board. Appreciate being here. I'm Dr. Sean Williams, president of the board.
I am Attorney Jeanette Peace. I am a board member, and I also will be starting the discussion by telling you a little bit about MENA Charter School. First of all, Lee County sits in the middle of North Carolina. It is the smallest county in our state geographically, and we will be the first charter school for kindergarten through 5th grade. Last year, an application was approved for a middle school, 6th and 7th, that has opened this year and is being very successful. MENA Charter School, we are a reapplicant, as mentioned already, and we will focus our curriculum on a STREAM philosophy, and that is science, technology, reading, engineering, arts, and math. We are also distinguishing ourselves from the local LEA by offering English and Spanish curriculum, and we will also have 2-year looping with kindergarten and 1st grade looping and 2nd and 3rd grade looping. There are studies that demonstrate that looping helps students to continue to make improvements and advancements in their academic achievement because they are not learning a new educator each school year. We are looking, well, there are 3 things that I want to emphasize that sets this application apart from the application that we had last year. One of those things is, first of all, we have a veteran board, and we added educators to our board. There was some concern last year that we did not have enough educators on our board. We have added educators. We have also hired an administrator with 38 years of public school experience. She has been HR director for a school system, as well as taught and or been an administrator, and has experienced K through 12. We also have a facility. Our facility is an old Lowe's building in Sanford. We have a letter of intent that we've included with our application. We have already been in touch with financing to renovate and upfit that building. And our educational plan is unique in that we have fine-tuned the education plan from last year, and we have also fine-tuned our budget. There was some concern last year about the budget in terms of our payment for teachers, and also in terms of the costs and expenses and the number of students that the budget was based on. We've lowered the number of students significantly. This year, our student number goal is 252. Our break even is 216, which is quite a significant decrease from last year. we would ask that you would definitely consider that we are ready for a full interview and that we are ready to proceed in the accelerated process.
All right, thank you very much. Just under time. All right, so 15 minutes for questions from the board. So it sounds like you highlighted some of the key items that have changed. Thank you for laying those out. Is there anything else in this application that is of significance for us as we're evaluating it for acceleration in terms of differences from last year?
Just to add on top of what Attorney Peace shared, one of the things we did add was dual language, where we realized in our discussion not to really make a separation between our students, so we will do Spanish and English, and that will be taught in the classroom by a teacher that will rotate through the day amongst the classes that the students will get. Students will get instruction during that day in English and in Spanish.
Okay. Questions? Yep, go ahead.
One other thing, sir. Also, we did two other things, knowing that we were in the accelerated process. We've already, as was shared, we have our administrator on. We have a marketing team that has been working with us, and he's here with us today, Mr. Bob Beatty in Media Integrations. So we've done a lot of forefront. We've have intent to come to the school already in our thing with approximately 100 students, and our goal is 252.
Great. Other questions from the board?
I would just like more clarification on, again, the whole building. There's a letter of intent that shows it's a purchase, but then in the description, it talks about it being a lease. And then I didn't know, sometimes I talk about Mina's Place and then Mina Charter School. So I don't know if that was two different entities, and Mina's Place is purchasing it and then leasing it, and then, I just need clarification on that. Just seemed confused.
Yep.
Should I address that now?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
all right. We attended the charter school conference that was held in Calabash. And during that conference, we learned quite a bit. And one of the things that we learned is that the school would not be able to own or purchase a facility with state allocation. And so therefore, we set the purchase of the building by Mina Place, and the school will lease the building from Mina's Place.
Who's Mina's Place? Who are they?
Mina's Place is an organization, it's a nonprofit 501c3 in the community who does other educational as well as social and community activities.
What's their relationship to the school other than that they're purchasing the facility?
There is no, that is the only relationship.
And if you would remember last year when we came, the school was actually called Mina's Place, and that brought a significant question on, well, is Mina's Place a daycare? What is it exactly? So that's why you see the change from Mina's Place to Mina Charter School, but the 501c3 is Mina's Place.
I'm a little confused about why you think you can't own a school.
It is my understanding from the education that we've received that the allocations from the state could not be used to actually purchase a building.
They
but
can't
that-
be used to
to
purchase
pay
a building in full. They can be used to make payments.
pay the
on-
mortgage.
Right. So that is,
Change.
So you can't, I mean, lots of schools own their building. I mean, well, the bank owns their building, but, you know, they pay mortgage on them.
right. Well, okay, I apologize, because the information that the way we understood it is that the school could not use state funds to actually purchase. And purchasing to me, from a legal standpoint, includes paying the mortgage. Now, paying for a lease or paying for rent, is totally different than paying, for school outright. And that was what we were advised.
Your mistake was trying to read common sense into the statutes.
Yes.
And that really was the problem, because it is crazy. I mean, you can, if you mortgage the property, you can use state funds to pay the mortgage.
Okay.
But if you just saved up enough in your funds, in your fund balance, you couldn't just go out and buy it. So apparently you have to give the bank some money if you're gonna be able to use state funds.
Well, the thing is that if you can't keep state funds anyway, so what's in your fund balance is actually your local
It's
money,
usually
which
local.
you could, if you happen to have several $1 million, go out and purchase the building. State funds, if you don't use them up, they take them back, so.
Right. So it's pretty complex. I guess I had a question, and I need some clarification on, it's on education. So whoever could answer that, but I was trying to figure out, you talked about how you're gonna keep track of the students as far as their academic progress, but I didn't see anything in there really from and I just want some clarification. How are you gonna do interim assessments of the students?
That's going to be done several different ways, and again, one of the things is through our use of our technology. That does really much seamless behind the scenes, that the students do not know they're being assessed, but they're being assessed on a continuing basis from that. A teacher will be doing weekly assessments with the parents and the student with that on weekly assessments, and then they'll do their quarterly assessments.
I still have a question about the facility, I'm sorry. Just to clarify, so if Mina's Place is purchasing it, they have the funds available to purchase that facility? If they're a separate nonprofit, where is their funding?
As you see in the application, we have the agreement for the $4 million to go out and to purchase, but that will come upon the issuance of the charter.
And where's that $4 million coming from? That's what I.
That is coming from a bank.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Mina's Place
It's-
is purchasing it, but they're purchasing it with a mortgage. and
That's
then-
correct.
And then the charter is going to lease it.
And yes, and that's really was a misunderstanding of the legal requirements. If we knew that we could do it, we would just say Mina's Charter School, but our understanding was just a legal interpretation that we misunderstood.
I have a question about, this is under mission and purpose. So it seems to be 3 heavily focused areas for the school. There's dual language immersion, there is stream-centered instruction, and then it seems a very technology or blended learning environment, which to me are 3 very bold kind of focused type programs that would lead, one of those could lead a school. So my question is, which one of those actually is kind of the platform in which you run the school? And a follow-up question would be, is your PD clarified, so because that's a lot for a teacher to take on?
Stream is going to be the #1 priority as far as the curriculum is concerned, in terms of what the classroom teacher will be focused on. The technology piece as well as the dual language piece will come in as supplements, but the stream is the very top priority for each classroom teacher.
Dual language immersion, as I understand it, is not a supplemental program. It is
It's not immersion.
It's not immersion. So it's an elective more or a special.
No, each classroom teacher, each student will get instruction in either Spanish or English, depending on what their first language is. If their first language is English, they'll get instruction in Spanish each day, and if their first language is Spanish, they'll get instruction in English each day. But it is not an immersion program where they will be speaking, they will be taught in Spanish all day.
And when you say they will get instruction in Are you saying they are going to be taught the language, or are you saying they're going to teach science in Spanish?
No, they're going to be taught the language, but not science in Spanish, to answer your question.
Conversational.
And the PD, is there specific PD that, I didn't see it in the plans, for a stream-focused curriculum that especially beginning teachers would be asked to instruct with?
Yes, ma'am. And when we say stream, pretty much science, technology, reading, engineering, arts, and math, arts is going to be a separate outsider component. But when you look at your science, technology, reading, and math, those would be in classroom A, and that teacher, through their PD, is going to learn the different components of what they're looking for from the administrative point of view each day to make that class successful in the stream process. And there's PD classes or online opportunities for professional development that we're going to be using along with on-site.
So you will provide instruction, I'm just getting clarity here, you'll provide instruction in science, utilizing technology, reading, engineering, arts, and math. It is not necessarily an integrated approach there's not an engineering program that they're going to be doing, is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Yeah, this group was moved forward last time. Sounds like they've made some financial changes. I still don't know if it's like I'm going to say with all of these, I'm not sure if they passed the accelerated threshold. Also, I just want to impress upon the board, and this goes to, getting similar to the kind of global achievers. What was that?
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's up to us to determine whether or not, even if school qualifies for acceleration, I think it's up to us whether or not we think that that's in the best interest of the school. And we need to, that's where some of the subjectivity of really, do we think that this makes sense for a school to open on a very accelerated timeline? So I just want us to go into next month's interviews with that mindset that, there's not a lot of reason why a little more time is beneficial. We're seeing a lot of schools that have delays or cannot open effectively. So I'm kind of like, does it really make sense to, greenlight a bunch of schools to accelerate when we're seeing over and over again schools are requesting delays because they can't get it done fast
Including
enough.
the ones that ask for acceleration.
And this isn't exclusive to y'all. This is kind of a board conversation. I'm comfortable moving these folks forward. I felt like, their interview was fairly. I remember their interview and feeling like it was solid, but just did not meet the threshold last time. So excited to talk to them again. Any other further comments or suggestions or questions that folks want to ask of the board?
I don't mean to be a harper on these organizational charts, but this one is really concerning. If I had a problem with the last application that I went on about, this has a parent, teacher, student organization higher on the organizational chart than the lead administrator. This is a recipe for disaster. I've seen it. When the authority is confusing like this, there's no way that an advisory team or a parent-teacher-student organization should be higher on the organizational chart than the lead administrator. I think as a board, aren't we all agreed that for a successful charter school, you need a clear line of authority and responsibility, and it goes from the lead administrator straight up to the board without anybody in between, like a student teacher parent organization?
Yeah, I'm with Alan on that one.
Yeah, I think the organizational chart's confusing at best.
I'm sorry, Steve?
It's confusing at best because you've got the board of directors and then that line branches out into the school advisory team and the parent, teacher, student organization and then goes down to the lead administrator. So I'm not you know, I don't think it's clear that the lead administrator answers just to the board of directors, because you've got these kind of two other things that look like a buffer between, so maybe it'd be better if the line was coming off the board of directors, one down to the lead administrator, and if the parent, teacher, or student organization and the school advisory team is not over the lead administrator, to have those lines coming off separate from the board of directors. I mean, I just, it's confusing, and I've seen a lot of confusing organization charts, and I'm glad that you always keep an eye on it, because it's important. It's important.
I think that, so I think that's something that, time's up. I think that's something that, y'all want to be ready to discuss, should we move forward to an interview. So at this time, we'll have a committee discussion, 5 minutes.
I'll move we bring them forward.
Okay. All right, so it's been properly moved and second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor? All right, so I'll move that we bring Mena Charter School forward for a full board interview.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second. Any discussion on the motion as a full board? All right, all in favor? All right, motion carries. We'll see you next month. Thank you. Yeah, we can definitely take a break. I feel like we're up to, are we pacing well at this point? We don't have Alpha, right? So now we have CFA? Is that correct? Great. Yeah, we're gonna take, what time do we need to be done with our clarifications?
12:30.
We have 3 more schools, so we've got an hour and a half worth of clarifications, and we've, in the, yeah,
12:30.
But it's not 11:30, it's 10:30.
right.
Okay.
So we got 2 hours.
Okay, right. All right, so let's take a break until 10:45. 15-minute break or 20-minute break?
Excellent.
Catch up on email?
Excellent.
Get food, get some snacks. Snack time. Snack time. Submit your relay assignment.
Coming before the board today is Team CFA Community Public Charter. They're proposing to locate in Gaston County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 5, 350 students. Year 2, K through 6, 450 students. Year 3, K through 7, 550 students. Year 4, K through 8, 650 students. Year 5, K through 8, 675 students. There was no LEA impact statement or due diligence for this application. Pass-fail ratings were as follows. Mission, purposes, and goals, 4 pass, 1 fail. Education plan, all pass. Governance plan, all pass. Operations plan, 4 pass, 1 fail. Finance plan, 4 pass, 1 fail. This is a first-time applicant requesting an acceleration. This applicant received assistance from Leaders Building Leaders and Team CFA. No direct fees were provided to either entity. The applicant was asked to submit missing background checks, additional 990s, and the required certification page during completeness checks, and they did respond by the October 12 deadline. This interview will be led by Alex Quigley and discussed by the Performance Committee.
Great. All right, so we got 5 minutes to hear introductions and statement.
I'm Eddie McGinnis. I'm the board chairman.
Good morning, I'm Charlie French, the board secretary.
Vidya Torbett, member of the board.
J. Bert Freeman, member of the board.
Charles Graham, member of the board.
Sherry Reynolds, head of school.
Greg Senders, Team CFA CMO representative.
On behalf of Team CFA and Community Public Charter School, which is located in the northeast part of Gaston County in the town of Stanley, we want to thank the Office of Charter Schools and this Charter School Advisory Board for creating an environment that says we want you to succeed, and we're here to help, so we certainly appreciate that. Our head of school, Sherry Reynolds, is a former Gaston County Principal of the Year. She was one of the 3 state finalists. She took Arlington Elementary School, which was at 37% proficient, to over 90% proficient over a 6-year period of time, and was one of only 2 schools in Gaston County that's ever been named a Blue Ribbon School. Was awarded there in Washington, D.C. The only other school in Gaston County is the Highland School of Technology. Charlie French, you might be familiar with her, is a charter starter. She started Riverwalk Academy in Rock Hill from scratch. She is now at Aristotle there in Charlotte. You'll hear from her tomorrow. She is doing a fantastic job turning that school around. Charlie Graham is a city attorney with the city of Gastonia. J. Bert Freeman is a U.S. Naval Academy graduate. He is was for 10 years a combat engineer officer in the U.S. Marine Corps. For the past 30 years, he has led a staff and leadership development for K-5 schools all along the East Coast in positive direction and leadership development. Vidya Torbett is a legislative executive assistant for her husband, John Torbett, who represents District 108 in the Gaston County area. And tomorrow is an important day for them. I appreciate her taking time off to be with us today. And I'm a retired principal in Gaston County, retired as principal at East Gaston High School with over 1,600 students. Now, one of the concerns that was within the application and the comments was that maybe this board isn't quite big enough. We actually have 9 members on our planning board. We have a CPA out of Mount Holly, Steve Sisk, a construction contractor, Brad Jonas out of Lincolnton, personnel director from one of the largest employers in Gaston County, Freightliner, George Eubanks, who is also a leader in the African American community in the Stanley area, and Tim McCarn, who's the CEO of a large multicultural congregation in the Charlotte region. We partnered with Team CFA, Greg Senders, Tony Helton, Jill Burleson, also with Leaders Building Leaders with Tom Miller and Katie Ridenauer. We've collaborated with Quan Graham, who is a founding parent member of Mountain Island Charter School in Gaston County, Jennifer Perdue, who leads the leading school in Gaston County. It happens to be a charter school, happens to be a member of Team CFA at Piedmont Community Charter. Debbie Clary, many of you know as a lobbyist, used to be in the North Carolina legislature and senator at Pinnacle and Shelby, and certainly Jason Cole there at Thomas Jefferson, which again, Joe knows very well, not only one of the top schools in the state, but in the nation. So again, I have with me letters of recommendation from the mayor of Stanley, also the town manager. One, I like the quote that the town manager said, "I believe the addition of community public charter school would only complement the current educational opportunities available in the Stanley area and make Stanley a more attractive place for families to live and to raise their families." Also, I have a letter from the chairman of the Board of Commissioners in Gaston County, Chad Brown, also a letter from Representative John Torbett, and also one of our donors is running for the North Carolina Senate seat in the 44th District, Ted Alexander, and his wife, too.
Great. Thank you. All
okay.
right, so we're going to keep it moving. Sounds like you have put together a great board. The first clarification question I have, and it should be I would expect probably the primary one, is just around the lease agreement.
Yes.
Between Community Pentecostal Center. Is Eddie McGinnis? Are you Eddie McGinnis?
I am, and I
Okay.
signed in the wrong place on that lease agreement.
Mike Cox?
Mike Cox is the chairman of the Board of Deacons with the Community Pentecostal Center. And I signed in that spot where I should have signed as the board chairman
So you're not the
of
pastor.
Community Public Charter School.
Or you are the pastor?
I
and
am the
board
pastor, of the church, yes.
You're the
But I
pastor
was-
of the church that's and the board chair? No.
Yes, yes.
You're the pastor of the church and the board chair?
Yes.
And the church is leasing the facility to the board?
Yes.
Is that okay? Legal? I just want to make sure that.
Well, first, I think the school would want to consult with their own legal counsel.
Yes.
For the board to make that determination. I'd rather have that discussion
Okay.
perhaps in closed session.
Okay, so that, all right. Okay, I just want, do you have any comment?
Well, I was an educator before I was a pastor, and certainly, my passion continues to be with education. If there was a discussion that would, center with both the church and the school board, I would recuse myself from that discussion.
Yeah, I think the issue might be more on, has the board, it's not actually the education, it's just the approval of this lease agreement.
Right.
Could be problematic for you to be the board chair as well.
Right.
So we'll discuss that at some point in closed session and maybe have more information if we move forward to a full interview, and that might be something that you, a flag that we would want to raise for you all to discuss with your own legal counsel. And I'm sure TMCFA has legal counsel that can advise on that. Any other, if you had to think about, so I heard you articulate some areas in the application that you felt were particularly strong around the board.
Yes.
Well, can I get clarification on that? The last list of folks that you were speaking, that's your 9-member planning board.
Yes, we've been.
What about your board of directors? That was one of my comments. Your actual board of directors is small. There's only 5 members.
Yeah, they're all here today, and one of the concerns in the response to the application was maybe it needs to be a larger board, and these 4 members, the CPA, the building contractor, the personnel director, and the other CEO, all are willing to step in as board members if we need to increase the board to 9. They're willing to do that.
Have you given that consideration?
Yes. when we got the response back on October the 29th, that was a phone call I made to each of those, and they're willing to step up and become full-fledged board members with background checks and all the information that you would need to get them approved.
Okay. Other clarifying questions from the application, specifics around, I'm gonna have, certainly want to have a conversation around acceleration.
Well, yeah, one of my questions, Alex, revolved around that. In the initial part of the application where they were speaking to their request for acceleration or why they wanted to accelerate it, the only evidence I see listed is that the area charter schools have huge waiting lists. So I never, in any of the sections of the application, saw where they specified a target population other than these other schools' waiting list. And so that brings to mind, I actually gave a fail on the mission, I believe it was, in one other section, for that reason, because I didn't see a specific targeted population. Because if you don't know who you're targeting, how do you know what their interests will be in this particular curriculum, which is very specific?
Right. I was just kind of discussing the geographic component of it and
How close it was to Mecklenburg County.
how close it was, because if part of your goal is to serve the students that are hypothetically on the wait list of other schools, where the school is located is relevant. Yeah, so again, I think that would be a question around, do you have a specific question to clarify around that? I mean, do you have anything other than we have the facility and the wait list? Are those the two things that you're?
Yeah, what is your compelling need for acceleration? Namely, because I don't see a specific group. You say the town of Stanley. You want to go into the town of Stanley. What is the student population in the town of Stanley? And have you assessed the needs of those parents in that proximity as to, their interest in this curriculum?
Yes. The demographics of that area, we're a rural area, which is, economically, I think the medium household income in that area is $35,800. It's about $4,000 less than the average of Gaston County. The interest area, we've already got 280 interest forms in from that area there. 23 of the 27 schools in elementary schools in Gaston County are either C or below. And Piedmont has already proven that this particular curriculum of core knowledge, language arts, and Singapore math is successful in our region. We're 20 minutes, 25 minutes from Piedmont Community Charter, from Mountain Island Charter in the the eastern edge of Mecklenburg County, and also Dave's certainly familiar with Lincoln Charter. So we're kind of in that middle spot, and yes, all of those do have large waiting areas, and we just feel like our parents, they can't afford to send them to a private school, and they want choice. They want choice, and all these other schools have waiting lists, and they're excited about us opening up and wanting us to. Again, that targeted population would be those who, would not have a choice otherwise, with the other schools having the waiting list.
We could also add to that we have held quite a few community meetings and have had lots of positive response from our parents. We have attended many community activities and events, and last count on the intent forms that have been submitted to us for enrolling their children was we've got over 280 parents who have already submitted the intent form. We also targeted in the surrounding communities, started back in July, targeting all the daycare centers in the Stanley and surrounding communities, and lots of the response has come from those parents as well. So we feel very strongly that the interest is there. The parents are coming out, they are attending these information sessions. We've just had 2 recently, we have 2 more scheduled before the 3rd of December. So the parents are crying out to us loudly and clearly. The parents are saying, we need options, we need this. We can't afford to send our children to the private schools, but our children need these opportunities.
So those 280 respondents, they all have eligible K-5 children?
Yes, ma'am. On our intent form, we simply had them to give us the parent's name, contact information for the parents. They've listed the children's names and the grade levels that they will be entering in August of 2019.
So that brings me to another question. May I?
Yep.
You want to start as a K-5, and you know that with the core curriculum, core knowledge curriculum, and Singapore math, correct?
Yes.
That it's very stringent and it builds from one year to the next, it spirals. So I guess my question is then how do you pull in those 5th graders, 4th and 5th graders especially, who've not had that foundation? So it's much easier to start with K2 and build them up as you move on up to, you want to eventually become K8, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So how do you compensate with those upper level children who've never been exposed to that curriculum?
Okay. That's where we are dependent on Team CFA, and we have had much collaboration with them and with the plan that they have in place so that they can provide the appropriate professional development for the teachers to get them ready. And also, we know that there's some bridges there that we have to connect. And so through the leadership and the support and the resources that will be available to us through Team CFA, we feel very confident that beginning with K-5 will be a very appropriate approach to take.
Is this the one that said it would be several years of professional development?
It said 3 years, I
3
think.
years of professional development?
Right.
I mean, that's pretty typical for Team CFA, I believe.
CFA.
They
And also, I've already been doing some visiting with the surrounding charter schools, and we've made an agreement with Thomas Jefferson that as soon as our teachers are hired in the spring, our teachers will be able to go into their school and to actually sit and observe in their classrooms, and this would be prior to the end of this school year, so that they will get a good understanding of the curriculum. And then also, the other surrounding charter schools are also, the Team CFA schools are willing to give us some support as well.
I think we're really veering into interview questions right now, so I want to just stop the show here and just really dial in on a decision around acceleration. The decision in front of us is simply, do we have any other clarifying questions for this group that would, without those clarifying questions, we would not be able to move them forward. Again, we're not making a decision on acceleration. They're kind of explaining to us why they think they should accelerate right now, but that's not our decision to make. We're not going to make that decision right now. It's good information, but also stuff that we'll cover in the interview. I mean, I think it's important that we go into these interviews with you. We actually do have 2 decisions to make with a number of these interviews. It's like accept or reject, and then accelerate or regular. And so there is an extra burden being placed on us from a kind of decision-making standpoint, because I just want to press upon us that there's not a lot of data suggesting that acceleration is really of great benefit, given that we have a number of schools that cannot even get open in a regular timeline. Even ones associated with CMOs, although I think that the fact that they're associated with Team CFA is good because it helps. They're able to bring a lot of resources to bear on the problem. Anyway, so clarification questions. We have the issue around the board piece, and I'm going to suggest that we have a closed session before lunch to discuss that and any other items that we need consultation with our attorneys, and you all will have an opportunity to speak more on that, and we'll kind of have what we think at the full interview should we move forward. But I'm going to take that as not something that is disqualifying at this point, which is also something that could be changed. Do we have any other? Yeah.
You go ahead.
I would like to hear from Ms. Reynolds one more time, because if I read this right, the application didn't identify you originally as head of school. So just tell us how you got involved and why you, as an experienced and very talented educator who's been very successful, congratulations on your accomplishments. Why do you think it's right to accelerate this application? Why do you think you could pull this off for July of 2019?
Because we are very ready to go. All we're waiting on is just getting the approval on this charter so that we can move forward with doing a mass marketing plan that we already have organized and ready to go with. We have all the components that we need. And also, another issue that I could include here is that Stanley, the elementary schools in Stanley, it's 2 schools, and one is a K2, the other one is a 3-5. And lots of the parents are very, very interested in getting all their children in the same school. Right. And just with the interest that we have, and with the expertise of all of our board members, and with working with Team CFA, and being able to have them provide for us all the resources, and everything's in place. I don't see a reason to wait. And I was first approached over a year ago by Eddie McGinnis, and his question to me was, how hard would I have to twist your arm to get you to come out of retirement and help us lead a school? And so that's how I became involved. And there's been lots of background work going on. We didn't just submit this application on a whim. They've been working almost 2 years already on getting everything in order, and did not submit the application last year because they did not have the facility nailed down at that point. But now everything seems to be in place, and so everything's there, and we really don't know what we would do for another full year that could prepare us any better than we're currently prepared.
Thank you.
All right.
I was just gonna say that if they should come back, the question I had was the targeted population. And you talked a little bit about it, but more clarity in that you're not just going for the waiting list of the other charter schools. I mean, that's what it kind of sounded like through the application. I didn't really get an understanding of the targeted population. And then what do you think that's gonna look like?
All right.
We don't need to answer that question now, I don't think.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
All right, that's fine with me. That was just something
Yeah.
that I didn't see in the application.
We have 30 seconds on questions. Great. Any other questions from the board? Okay, discussion among the committee?
I move that we move it ahead.
Okay. All right, it's properly moved and seconded on the committee. All right, all in favor? Let me just make sure I see hands raised up high. Okay, great.
ready.
All right.
Tell us your eyes.
All right, so it's been
On the wall.
moved and seconded out of the committee that community public charter will move forward to a full interview. So I'll make that motion. And Sherry seconded. So any discussion on the motion to the full board? All right, all in favor? All right, motion carries. Thank you. We'll see you back in a month. Great. So at this time, I believe the next one is Hobgood Charter Academy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that
The
you?
applicant coming before the board today is Hobgood Charter Academy.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
proposing to locate in Halifax County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 8, 225 students. Year 2, K through 8, 250 students. Year 3, K through 8, 275 students. Year 4, K through 8, 300 students. Year 5, K through 8, 325 students. There was no LEA impact statement or due diligence for this application. Pass-fail ratings were as follows. Mission, purposes, and goals, all pass. Education plan, all pass. Governance plan, all pass. Operations plan, all pass. Finance plan, all pass. This applicant is requesting an acceleration. They are also a repeat applicant. Last year, they received a full interview. This applicant received assistance from Greg Senders. No fees were provided to Mr. Senders. The applicant was asked to submit a completed governance table on October 5th, 2018. The applicant responded by the October 12th deadline. This interview will be led by Stephen Walker, Chair of the Policy Committee.
All right, got 5 minutes to introduce yourselves and tell us how great this school's gonna be.
I'm Nicole Flannery. I'm with Duke Energy Renewables. I'm the vice chair.
Ron Elkins, I'm secretary of the board.
Ricky Cannon, board member.
Joe McDowell, business owner and board member.
Zane Stillwell, board member.
And I'm Juliana Harris. I am currently the board chair for Hobgood Academy Charter School. We ready to roll?
Yep.
All right. So good morning, Chairman Quigley, Vice Chair Walker, members of the North Carolina Charter School Advisory Board. My name is Juliana Harris again, and I am the chairperson of Hobgood Academy Charter School Board. I'd like to begin by thanking you for providing this opportunity to share how much we value and appreciate the feedback, input, and insight you've provided us, not just this year, but the past 2 years as we have worked to prepare for the opening of Hobgood Academy Charter School. Let me assure you, we are prepared to open our doors as a North Carolina charter school for the 2019-20 school year. We are committed, as evidenced by our perseverance in this process for 3 years. We have listened to and heeded your advice as evidenced in the changes to our application. We have added a transportation plan for families who have indicated that need. We have expanded our previous budget extensively for our lunch program in order to ensure students whose families are not financially able to provide for food expenses will receive lunch options equal to that of their peers. We have added a weighted lottery. We've been here long enough to know that you guys kind of favor that. To ensure our target population, students from economically disadvantaged homes, is well represented in our student population, even though the vast majority of students living in the area we will be servicing come from such homes. We've heard your words, we've acted upon them, and we are eagerly awaiting the opportunity to put our plans into action in order to serve even more students in the area who deserve a rigorous, well-rounded education geared to equip them with the skills, dispositions, and work ethic to be successful citizens. Currently, Hobgood Academy is a private K-12 entity serving 98 students. 67 of those are currently K-8 students. There are many families who have expressed interest in enrolling their children in Hobgood Academy over the years, but over the last 10 years especially, families have struggled to find the financial means to do so. Hobgood Academy has sought private donors over the years who offer tuition assistance to students of varying races. In the past 2 years, the administration at Hobgood Academy has encouraged families to pursue opportunity scholarships to cover the cost of tuition so their children can benefit from the educational experience Hobgood Academy has to offer. This year, Hobgood Academy has 18 K-8 students who received opportunity scholarships and 11 others who received tuition assistance from private donors. That is nearly half of our K-8 population. Many have questioned why we seek to convert from a private school to a charter school, and the answer is this. As educators, members of the community, and concerned citizens, we have an obligation to our children to ensure they receive the best education possible. And we want to be able to serve more children and families that do not have the financial means to receive an education from the current private entity. We want to offer community-based public school where currently there is not one. We want to provide an alternative to families who are seeking an environment where students are seen and educated as individuals with strengths and gifts to be expanded upon, and where families feel strong ties to the school because they are valued and are confident their children are safe, loved, and are receiving the best education offered. We want to provide, on a larger, more comprehensive scale, a school that focuses and assures equity for all. At this time, I'd like Mr. Joe McDowell, a fellow board member, to share with you the significant impact Hobgood Academy Charter School will have on our students and community.
Good morning.
You
Thank
only have a minute left, sorry.
Thank you
got
for
1
this
minute.
opportunity. I'll be quick. I'm a business owner, fourth generation business since 1901. I've seen the impact on all our small communities of the lack of quality public schools in the area. Y'all are all very aware of our area, the socioeconomics, Halifax, Edgecombe, and Martin County, where we will draw. It's even worse than that if you live in the area, because the county seats are all well away from where we are looking to draw our students from. So we all kind of get the short end of the stick. I think there's a great need for this charter school in our area. Our socioeconomics are such that we're less than half, almost half the state level, about double the state level of poverty. We're in a high area of need. The best thing I can say about what we hope this school to become is probably evidenced by how I became a board member. A fellow board member contacted me and asked me to be on the board for leadership, management, and finances. I'll finish up, thank you.
All right.
And I said, I asked him some further questions, and I said, why are you passionate about a charter board? And this was a big, strong gentleman, and he told me why he was. He went to a kindergarten graduation and saw the diversity, saw all the smiling kids, attentive and behaved, saw the teachers full of pride, dedication, and when the teachers tried to speak and acknowledged the achievements of the students, they were so overcome with emotion that they had trouble speaking. He told me what he learned from this was 3 things. He said, 1, this is what public education should be. 2, that how fortunate he was and his family was to have that opportunity for that safe and nurturing environment, which we hope to bring forward and we will bring forward. And 3, how unfortunate it is that not enough others have that opportunity, particularly in our area. How can anyone say no to that? And I'm hoping, how can anyone say no to a charter school in an area that so desperately needs it? Thank you. Sorry, I'm over.
Okay, I think this application was much better than before. If you remember what the big thing that went through everything last time was the debt that had to do with the facility. And I think the suggestion of the board, of this board, has basically been like, maybe you, and I think it was really started in the conversation that, so, well, we could sell our building and lease the building, and that would get rid of the debt because we were worried about old debts being paid off with current state funds and whether it was going to cause some sort of financial instability and things like that. And your financial situation looks a lot better. But I think there's probably going to be some questions about the facility and how that transaction happened, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, this trust that bought the building, who are they? Who are they relative to you guys?
The trust is managed by a local philanthropist, Mr. Jesse Sheeran, who's just an advocate of the school with good intentions at heart, always has been, believe always will be. As far as relations to the school, he has served as a educator in the past, generally as a volunteer, but at this point he has no official ties to the school as far as employment or part of a board.
Okay. And just to clarify, so y'all have sold the building to that trust, and then you're gonna pay that trust rent?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so now you're coming in, basically from looking at your last 990, it looks like you're coming in with, you're gonna be bringing in around $325,000 of assets, something like that, into the school. Am I reading that right? And that, because that's your
there.
furniture, your
Yes.
all those assets, okay. So I think I think you're on a much better footing, because now we're not sitting here wondering, are you gonna, take state funds to pay off, debts of an old private school? And so I think that makes it up. I mean, I really, does anybody else have any clarification questions that they have about the school or about the application?
I think they get
Yeah.
an interview just for persistence.
really. We were hoping you'd say that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I do have some. They're currently a K-12, but they're only gonna be a K-8. What happens to the rest of those children? And how does the charter school then, if the private schools staying open, what, are they both called Hobgood, and what's happening with that? And then I have some questions about the background checks. So their background checks, 4 of the background checks listed that there was something, but all it had was a case number, no information about it. Could be traffic accidents, but we need to see it. But the part that was really disconcerting was the ones that were clear. This is the statement on it. No criminal or sex offender records were found on this individual. So I got 4 with something on them, and if it's clear it says no criminal or sex offender records, I need to know what's happening with those 4.
Okay. All right, so maybe we could get some more information on that before we have the interview. Yeah, I guess I've almost given up on background checks, because until there's some way that we can work out statutorily where we can actually get a good background check. I mean, gosh, we had people come up here not too long ago, and the board chair was a convicted felon that had just got out of federal prison like 6 months before the application was submitted, and his background check came back clean. I mean, what are we've got to do something with that where we actually get some more information, and I think the only way we're going to be able to do that is statutorily be able to take fingerprints and do fingerprint background checks with FBI. I mean, I remember when that died in the legislature on the last day a few years back. So I don't know what we can do with background checks now. We've been told we can't say that there's preferred vendors for background checks, because that would be some sort of violation of something. We've talked about maybe doing a RFP process where we could work it out where it comes out of the application fee or something. I don't know what we can do, but I agree with you. I'm frustrated to death with that, and that's apart from just this application. But any other, I guess that is a clarification question in my mind. What's going to happen? Is the private school still going to be operating?
That is our understanding. So we do not have any overlap on our board or with the private school. At this moment, we're operating relatively separate as far as the plans go for that. Our understanding is that they will plan to continue as a high school, grades 9 through 12. What happens beyond that, beyond their first years of enrollment, we're not sure.
Will they be in the same building?
They should be on I think the plan is to be on the same campus. We understand they may be working out a lease agreement with the trust as well.
Are they also called Hobgood?
Currently, they are Hobgood Academy.
And you would be Hobgood Charter Academy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Could be a little
I
confusing.
think we can talk about that a little bit more in an interview, but I'm comfortable with having them come forward. So I'll move that we recommend to the full board that they come in for an interview.
A second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, then, Mr. Chair, on
I'm
behalf of
just
the
used to
policy
voting
committee.
for all of them. All right.
On behalf of the policy committee, I move that we bring in Hobgood Charter Academy for a full interview.
Who's seconding it?
I second.
Okay. This has been properly moved and second. Discussion as a full board. All right, all in favor? Great. See you next month.
Thank you. Thank you.
You want me to get stuff and bring it back?
The applicant coming before the board today is Revolution Academy. They're proposing to locate in Guilford County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 6, 398 students. Year 2, K through 7, 646 students. Year 3, K through 8, 727 students. Year 4, K through 8, 727 students. Year 5, K through 8, 720 students. There was no LEA impact statement or due diligence for this application. Pass-fail ratings were as follows: mission, purposes, and goals, all pass; education plan, all pass; governance plan, all pass; operations plan, all pass; finance plan, all pass. This applicant is requesting an acceleration. They are also a repeat applicant, and last year they received a full interview. This applicant did not receive assistance from any third party. This application was deemed complete on October 5th, 2018. This interview will be led by Chair Alex Quigley and discussed by the Policy Committee.
All right.
Good morning. I'm Mary Catherine Sauer. I'm the board chair, and I'll be the founding principal.
I'm Elaine Graziano, a 30-year retired teacher and secretary of the board.
My name is Lisa Walker, and I'm a board member.
No relation.
So we really appreciate the opportunity to come back. I think we've made a significant improvement in the application. We've tried to address all of your concerns, and I'll give you a quick rundown of some of the things we've changed. We've reduced the initial ADM from 565 to 398 to make sure we hit it and to accommodate our temporary facility. We've changes in the education plan include strengthening the core knowledge and classical explanations. We're looking at another math program. We attended the Core Knowledge Leadership Institute to help us be able to explain that better and market that better. We've made some goals more specific and realistic. We've added demographic information for our target area. We've got more specific about our target area. We did a new survey, which has over 400 responses. We've held an interest meeting in the target area, and as far as our budget, we've reduced our surplus. We've reduced it and adjusted the revenue, obviously, to accommodate the different ADM. We've changed some of the individual line items and increased the budget for lunches and buses to accommodate over 53% of our students riding buses and over 40% of our students where we have to, if we had to pay completely for their free lunches. We've added the multi-tier support system explanation to our exceptional children portion of the application. As far as staffing, we've added team members to our team that's behind the scenes, that's not in the application. But as far as the application is starting for next year, we've added a full-time tutor to help support those students who need support and struggle but do not necessarily qualify for EC support. And proportionally, we have more specialist teachers and teacher assistants. And the first year especially, because of our lower ADM, our specialist teachers will be able to serve in other capacities as well during their downtime. As far as why we want acceleration, we've actually been working on this for about 2 years. We feel like we have a lot of momentum. We have a fair number of staff already on board. We have an engaged and enthusiastic board. We have a lot of potential parents, as evidenced by our survey. And we have a signed lease on our facility. It does not need any upfit. It already has the certificate of occupancy. All we have to do is move our desks and chairs in. And they're going to let us have our office space starting in January. And we have lots of students that want this option, but just do not have it available right now. So, thank you.
Great. What questions does the board have for this group?
Concerns around the ADM, so we dropped it in year one, but then we're almost doubling it the next year. But we're starting in a temporary facility. So some concerns around that.
You want me to address that now? Okay. We dropped it in year one. We're going to be in the temporary. We plan to be in the temporary facility year one. But part of our strategy for marketing and enrollment as well is to identify that permanent facility as soon as possible, so we can have that built out for the second year. So that's where we can increase our numbers the second year and fill out those grade levels that the first year are not full.
And you're going in Guilford?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know what construction is like in Guilford, but we've had people getting stuff built in a year has not been happening.
Yes, well, we have our backup plan is to, if we can't get the facility built, and you're right, this is very ambitious. We are looking potentially to go just outside the city limits because the city planning department is a little bit tedious, more tedious than the county. But our plan, our backup plan includes staying at that facility, which we'll have the option to do. But we would have to take some students off site to grow like that. So we would have maybe kindergarten or first grade at another location the second year if we need to.
Could you clarify the exceptional need for the charter school? Just like the target population? There's a little bit of an explanation, but just can you help us with that?
Well, sure. Hopefully, I think what we've seen in Guilford County. My kids went to an excellent charter school, Greensboro Academy. They got an excellent education, and I love my kids. They're great, but they don't deserve anything more than any other kids do. So I think the biggest thing for me to do the acceleration, besides us being all ready, and we're going to lose, I think. I think you'll see that if you look back on schools that went beyond the 3 years, they lose board members and they lose some of that momentum. I don't think it would be any easier for us to open with a year delay because we're so ready to go. But as far as the need, then when I opened Cornerstone, there were 1,200 students on the Greensboro Academy waiting list. Now there are 1,300 students on the Cornerstone waiting list. Greensboro's an area that has not come close to meeting the market for high-quality charter schools. It's my best explanation for that.
There's a mention of diversity, that there's a lack of diversity in this particular area, and pervasive is the word that's used. Can you talk a little bit about that piece, clarify that?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared. I would have to go back and say that specific word and that specific. Is that in the evidence of need in the appendices? Okay, so I apologize for not being able to address that specific thing, but I can say that one of the things that we want to do is there's been a ton of criticism for years and years and years of charter schools that they're not diverse. They're either black or they're white. They're either economically disadvantaged or not economically disadvantaged. And so one of the things that I've tried to do in all the schools, and I think we've been very successful with it in Piedmont Classical, is to market and to target the area in such a way that we get a balance, okay? So that we have the economically disadvantaged students, but we have the ones that aren't. And I think it's really created a really neat culture in that school, and that's what we're trying to do again.
Okay.
I voted to open the school last time, so I didn't see anything in here that would change my mind. I thought it looked a little bit better than it was. I think the question in my mind is going to be the acceleration, but I'll deal with that next month if y'all moving forward.
Yeah, my biggest concern, again, is just the growth in the second year. I mean, yes, they have the facility nailed down for year one, but then if they're gonna almost double in size year two.
And the
not have a
facility they're in, they
facility.
already know won't hold it if they decide, if they aren't able to get there. So now we gotta find a second facility. I just think that's asking a lot.
Right, and that to me, it almost goes to the acceleration, where if you didn't accelerate, then you could go ahead and be into that other facility, you know, at that time period. That's where my only real issue.
I know last year when we talked about, we felt they were very aggressive with their enrollment, so they brought it down year one, but then it did not change compared to last year. So it's still aggressive, just not in the first year.
Well, I'll move with it. We recommend to the full board that they come in for an interview.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Okay. All right, and I'll make the recommendation to the full board that they come in for an interview, come out of this committee.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Great.
Thank you.
See you soon. Yep, let's do it. Let's do state board updates before lunch. If Mr. Director Machado is able to touch on that now, that would be excellent.
Before we talk about it, the plan is to, all the applications that are accelerated applications, when they come back for a full interview the next month, the goal is to be able to take this to the state board in January, and then for discussion in January, knowing that there's still gonna be a few that you're gonna have to vote on at your January meeting. So in February, we can get those approved for accelerated, because they can't start their enrollment process until they're approved by the State Board of Ed. And if it's an accelerated application, and they can't officially start enrolling students at the beginning of February, they're gonna be, it's gonna be a tight period also. So that's the goal of is to get these done, so you're able to approve them all by January.
Okay.
But we wouldn't be able to approve them all by January, because won't we still be, ones that come in December, we'll have to interview again in January.
Right, you bring them, you'll
So
you'll
we'll
vote on
finish our
them
work.
in January, that last group. When I go in front of the state board, I will give them the ones that have been approved, and give them a list that will be pending your January meeting. That way, it's not an action on first read when we go to them in February for their vote.
Got it.
Our new gatekeeper, Deanna, is really tough on actions on first read. Nah, we're trying not,
keep asking
that's
for it
exactly,
anyway.
that's what we did with the applications also. We, on 1 month, we didn't have the final list, and then we. Tomorrow, during when my updates is, we're gonna get the state board, we're gonna get CSAB to approve the timeline for the CSP grant.
Okay.
But we're gonna go over the grant in a little more detail tomorrow, and we'll need you to approve the application and the timeline, so we can take it to the state board in December for their approval, because they have to approve it. Okay? Updates from State Board, they did approve your recommendation for Global Achievers Academy. Our office now is working on the closure process.
So they didn't relinquish within 3 days?
No, they did not. Preparing the letters that will go to them quickly. They did approve your recommendation to allow Bonnie Cone Academy to partner with the CMO. They did, they discussed Westlake Academy's amendment to decrease their enrollment. Discussed KIP's amendment request for enrollment articulation. Schools in their region. And on the October 18th and 19th, we had our Charter School Leadership Institute at Pine Springs Prep. And I have to say, I think it was the best attended and the most successful one we've had. We really appreciate Pine Springs for hosting it. This month, our office has visited Healthy Start Academy, Three Rivers Academy, Paul R. Brown Academy, and Chatham Charter School. And decided that every quarter we have a compliance meeting with all the agencies, divisions in the agency. And when we go through every one of our schools, particularly renewal, but every single one of our schools, if they're in compliant or out of compliant, and we're gonna start providing CSAB with that information too. I think there's a lot of information that I don't think this board, we've been providing you enough to make really good decisions. So we're gonna after every one of those meetings, we're gonna send you an update on what happened. I think we've already sent the first one out.
Yes.
You received that, so
I really like
you'll get
that.
that once a
Yeah.
quarter.
That's great.
What you'll see is a lot of the same names, and I think it's reasons to,
Is there somebody who can explain, like, there were a whole bunch of them, financial and potential financial insolvency? I'm not sure what that means.
I don't know what the codes were, like the 220 dash
Yeah,
something.
yeah, so that, yeah, like so many, it's with so many high risk, so many medium risk, so many, what, I don't know what that means either.
we can get that list. And Alexis will be here tomorrow to talk about the renewal schools too, but do we have that information?
Regarding the student reporting, when you see those numbers, that's reported from student, like data here. And so they break down the students, like if it's 220 students, they put them in low risk, I think it's moderate risk and high risk. And that's based on attendance and grades. So when they're monitoring like their attendance and grades through, I don't know if it's through PowerSchool where they monitor, how they monitor that, but they break down for the schools if they're seeing like high risk students with a lot of absenteeism and low grades, like failing courses. That's where those numbers are coming from.
Okay, high risk for what?
For failure and for
At risk.
low attendance. Yeah.
Didn't the, Ashley, the financial, didn't they have codes on them? I can't remember.
I don't know that there's codes. It might be their student or their school number for the
I think, because let me see if I can find your.
Yeah.
What does that mean, financial, what does that mean? That, like, there were some that, they said something about financial insolvency, and they were like on month to month, or.
Yeah.
But then there were a whole bunch of them that says this stuff, what's that mean?
Yeah.
So, no, just because we kind of been working on this with the renewal schools together. So what happens is, if a school has any kind of activity that is not typical of what they would consider good conditions, then that's somewhat of like a warning thing that happens for them. And then if it continues, or if they look at the audit and there's an actual material finding, then it escalates to the next thing. So if you see the financial insolvency statement, that means that it could be something, but they have not officially found in detail what it is. It's just like a warning for us to know that we need to hold on and wait until they know what exactly it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Lloyd? Okay.
Yeah, and I will say for this last meeting was in October, so FBS is still waiting on the audit results. So that was just a notation I made. But they will also be here today if you have more specific questions about those different statuses.
Yeah, let's see what it is, Ashley. One's the LEA code and one is the renewal year.
Okay.
So that helps.
Yeah, and if you ever have any questions about the data that I'm sending, just shoot me an email and I can find out and answer for you. Yeah.
That's the report.
Do we have any concerns?
I think that's really helpful, because we wouldn't see that until the performance framework.
And just so that you all know, because it is renewal time and we're coming up in December on making decisions, every school that was on the renewal list that came up on the financial may have an issue list has been contacted, they've been spoken with, and they've been given time to contact FBS from our office. We communicated with them so that they are aware of what's going on tomorrow.
All right.
The schools will be coming this afternoon, but there were a few schools that showed up in the compliance piece that were not scheduled to come, but they've already been told that they may need to come in December, just before a decision is made, so, yes.
And Alexis is coming at 1 o'clock to explain all the renewal schools. If you guys have any questions on any of the renewal schools, not just the ones that are appearing for you, and she does not feel like it's gonna take that entire lot of time.
We have those renewal people coming at 1, right?
1:40, oh.
No, that they know to be here a little early, I hope.
Be here
They get,
at 1:45.
Uh-oh.
Dave, I do have a
I think there are
question.
some people.
Carter's already here.
they're here early.
They want to talk about exceeding growth for the last 5 years. Anyway,
I have a question, Stephen, for Dave. The audit was due October 31st. Were any of the schools that were impacted by the storm affected by that deadline, or were they all able to get
When
that
I'm-
report.
When I met with Alexis Friday about something else, she had quite a few had just come in on the 31st. She didn't tell me what schools or, and I'm not aware, and I wouldn't know if somebody had asked for an extension because of the hurricane, you know. So I really can't answer that question.
Well, you can, I mean, anybody can ask for an extension till December, just in general principle.
General urgency stuff.
So I guess we could just ask Alexis if any of our schools have been extended. I mean, I can understand that this ones in southeast would have legitimate calls. But you start working on that in June anyways.
Well, it depends on your auditor.
We started back in June, I think.
And lunch is here if you guys want to break early for lunch.
Oh, that's
Okay,
always
well, I will move then that we go into closed session for consultation with our attorneys on attorney-client privileged matters. And that we, then after we do that, that we have lunch.
Second.
So we will not, for the people in the audience, we will not be coming back out until after lunch, and that'll be at 1 o'clock.
Do we have to come back out to come out of closed session, or can we do it after lunch?
You can adjourn closed session during lunch with open session beginning at, scheduled beginning at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Do we have to
And
come
that-
back
that
out
was
to
my
adjourn,
motion,
to
so-
adjourn? Do we have to like walk back
Yeah,
out?
we need to, you'll close, close session, you will close during the break period and reopen at 1 p.m.
Do we have to come back out here to close it, I think was the question. To close closed session, we can close closed session in closed session. That's what I thought.
Great. All
Okay.
right, so we'll see y'all at 1 o'clock is the short answer on that. And we're gonna vote for closed session. All in favor? All right, can't move.